Hey people, I recently watched a great video by Samuel online about the dumbing down of the Elder Scrolls series, and so many of his points resonated with me and my perspective of the Fallout series. So this video will be about the Fallout series and has it been dumbed down, and if so, does it need to be dumbed down? A little bit of background information on my affiliation with the Fallout series. I have played and completed each of the 4 main Fallout games, which is Fallout 1, 2, 3 and New Vegas, and I have played these games on a regular basis pretty much since 2008, where I was first introduced to the Fallout series with Fallout 3, which then inspired me to go on and play Fallout New Vegas, which came out 2 years later, which then also inspired me to go play Fallout 1 and 2, and also eventually Tactics, which I haven't actually completed because of its non-RPG nature. And it's also fair to say, if you have been aware of my channel in any capacity, that I am a huge fan of the Fallout series and I very much adore it. This comparison will be mostly compromised of Fallout 1, 2, 3 and New Vegas, but a lot of my criticisms won't apply to New Vegas because I feel Obsidian did a pretty good game that didn't try to dumb itself down, and the aspects that are dumbed down is mostly gameplay elements they inherited from Bethesda and having to abide by Bethesda's vision. I exclude Tactics mostly from this list because of its semi-canon state and not being an RPG and its radically different approach to gameplay, and Fallout Tactics never claimed to be an RPG in the first place, so it wouldn't be really fair to compare one genre of game to another. So with no further ado, let's get to the main premise. Point number 1, you can't fail. In Fallout 1, the premise of failure is compounded straight away when you're tasked with finding the water chip for Vault 13 and given a time limit in which to find the water chip to fix the water purification system, or the Vault dwellers will die without clean water to drink. The imposed time limit adds urgency and agency straight away, thrusting you into the narrative and world of Fallout. Contrast that to Fallout 3 and you're tasked with finding your father, and you have a seemingly indefinite amount of time to do it in because the Enclave will just patiently wait for the player to find James and go to the Jefferson Memorial before they swoop in and attempt to seize Project Purity. There's no time limit to finding James or trying to protect or finish Project Purity, as the Enclave will wait for the player, meaning they won't attempt to poison the water with the forced evolution virus and by proxy having the player fail. This is dumbing down the story to wait hand on foot as to not annoy the player with pesky impending doom. Another good example of the inability to fail in Fallout 3 is the Wasteland Survival Guide. When you nuke Megaton, Moira Brown, the person who gives you the quest, is coincidentally out of town when the nuke detonated and turned into a ghoul from the nearby radiation. Again, this is a form of casualization and is mitigating the consequences to your actions and circumventing failure with a timely thematic MacGuffin. Whereas if you compare this to the original Fallout, where you can innocuously send water merchants to Vault 13 to give your vault some much needed water to increase the imposed time limit, this can actually lead to failure, as the merchants can be seen and followed by super mutants potentially finding your vault and ending the game through your failure. You can potentially fail at the whole of the game in the original Fallout. Point number 2, importance of special. In Fallout 3 and to a lesser extent Fallout New Vegas, special has been mitigated in terms of influence. Take agility for example. In Fallout 3, agility governs how quickly action points replenish, stealth and your small gun skill, while agility in Fallout 1 governs how many action points you can use in battle, which is everything from how many attacks you have per turn, opening your inventory, how far you can move in combat, etc., as well as your traps, big guns, small guns, energy weapons, throwing, unarmed, melee and stealing skills. Fallout 1, as well as having far more impact across your skills, has 3 or 4 times the amount of agility related perks in Fallout 1 as opposed to Fallout 3. Conversely, you have the opposite side of the spectrum. You aren't really penalised for having a low special stat like in Fallout 1. If your intelligence is below 3, you lose the ability to finish or even accept some quests, and your dialogue options are massively changed, while in Fallout 3 you aren't penalised for having low intelligence and your dialogue options are the exact same bar one conversation in the whole game with Dean Dewey in Roosevelt Academy. Or even in Fallout 1, if you have poor agility, your action points will be severely lacking and will limit essentially everything you can do in combat by not being able to have as many commands per turn to attack or open your inventory or apply a stim pack and so on. Yet further still, Fallout 3 cheapens special by giving you the perks Almost Perfect and Intense Training, as well as bobbleheads that increase your special stats permanently. While in the first two Fallouts it was possible to change your special stats, it was a lot harder and not to such an empowering extreme. You could go to places like the Brotherhood of Steel, the She, the Hubologists, and potentially increase a special stat by 1 point, but these special stats were missable and permanently missable depending on the player's actions. Having the special system having such little influence and being so easy to manipulate is a result of casual in my opinion, by removing consequences to your actions and making you a god of the special system in terms of extreme power and extreme customization and choice, so players don't have to bother with pesky replayability. They can see and do everything in the one playthrough with limited to no consequences. Point number 3. Moral ambiguity and karma. I think there is times where Fallout 3 does well with moral ambiguity, but there is also times where I feel it's shallow and tenuous while being dumbed down for merely explosive shock value, quite literally. Take the Power of the Atom quest. It was shown off a lot pre-release of Fallout 3 as an encapsulation of the Fallout series' famed morality and choice, and yet when you scrutinise it just slightly, it's really just a choice of good and outright profit or nefarious evil. There's no ambiguity to be had. You either detonate the nuke in Megaton because Alistair Tenpenny thinks it's an eyesore bestowed on the capital wasteland and should be eschewed, or you disarm it to attain some XP caps and to save the settlement. There's no factors to ponder over. There isn't a moral dichotomy presented to the player. It's really just thrown together with a nice big explosion to make the player feel like a powerful badass. Or the slew of binary good v evil choices, like the choice to save Butch's mother in Vault 101 or let Butch's mother die to the pack of radroaches, or again to give Garza stimpaks for his heart condition on the way to the Citadel, or to let him die by not giving him the required stimpaks, or in the quest in Andale with the cannibals having another binary choice of killing them or effectively joining them. I'm not saying Fallout 3 screws up morality across the board, and I'm not saying Fallout 1 and 2 are impervious to screwing up morality themselves, but in the first two Fallout games there's typically more ambiguity in quests, like say the one in Junktown with killing Darkwater and Gizmo. One can bring law and order but really can't improve this town in terms of finances or resources, while Gizmo doesn't really bring much law and order and he has a very seedy undercurrent to his workings, but he can bring some sort of traffic through the town and some sort of financial and resourceful prosperity. But where things get really dumbed down in my opinion is the ability to manipulate the karma system, almost as if you have the ability to change on a whim. If you've nuked Megaton, don't worry, donate some money to the Church of St. Monica or give some bottles of water to the tramp outside Rivet City or Megaton. Maybe your karma is too good and you'd like it lowered. Again, not to worry, just pick the Karmic Rebalance perk, which resets your karma to 0, and if that wasn't bad enough, morality has been simplified so much that you can take a perk called Lawbringer that will give you the ability to cut off a bad person's finger to turn it into the regulators for good karma. There's also a similar perk for killing good characters as well, where you cut off the ears and hand them in for negative karma. Again, this is in a series that is championed and praised, eulogised even, for its morally ambiguous characters and ideologies and battling moral dichotomies, and it's distilling morality into a collective fingers game and stipulating that there is outright good and bad people in this world, which is just totally asinine for a series like Fallout in my opinion. As Tim Kaine once said, my idea is to explore more of the world and more of the ethics of a post-nuclear society, not to make a better plasma gun. Point number 4. Quest system. The best example of casualization in Fallout 3 is the quest system and the immortal NPCs in Fallout 3. In Fallout 1 and 2, there's no such thing as a quest marker to hold your hand through the game, but it rather provides a challenge and asks you to logically and deductively think about where to go and prompts you to learn about the world you're in, rather than giving you license to merely run in a straight line chasing an arrow. An example of this is when you're told that James was headed to Rivet City and the Lone Wanderer innately knows where this place is, even though he's not been there since his birth. Yes, the Lone Wanderer wasn't born in Vault 101, that's a bit of a spoiler, sorry. There's countless examples of this hand-holding and removal of deductive skills, while in Fallout 1 and 2 you are repeatedly thrust into the unknown, left with only your deductive skills and a hint at best. Like when you're asked to find a water chip, you have to critically think about where you would find such an item, what age of technology am I looking for, why do I need it, and what other potential places would be given a water water chip, it asks you to think about the problem within the universe you're placed in. And personally, as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much all that immersion is. But seemingly the majority of players just want to chase arrows, while some players find ultra convenience and vapid gameplay a bit of a turn off, which is one of the reasons why I find the arrow system in Fallout 3 immersion breaking. It really just feels like the developers are essentially placing you and guiding you through the game. The quest system in Fallout 3 really irritates me because I feel it would only take a little bit more effort to make some expansive dialogue or expansive text for these quests to explain what it is you're looking for and maybe some tips on how to get there or get that item or etc. And yet Fallout 3 largely favours the follow the arrow system. In my opinion, the arrow system should be able to be toggled on or off, and there should be expansive enough information in these quests or journals to explain the quest at hand. All of this is before we even get to the immortal NPCs. I can understand people's complaints about NPCs dying randomly that are pivotal to a quest, but having immortal NPCs obliterates immersion in my opinion, and is one of the most abrasive forms of condescension and dumbing down in Fallout 3. The option should be there, like it is in other Fallout games, to wreak nefarious, murderous havoc if I so choose, but I should have to live with these consequences. Immortal NPCs feel like stabilisers that prevent the irrational, casual gamers from screwing up, but these stabilisers ultimately take away control from the rational, thoughtful people. I'm not sure personally what you could do to replace this problem, other than having NPCs that can only be killed by the player. Point number 6. Level scaling. Once again, in Fallout 1, 2 and New Vegas, enemies have a fixed level rather than Fallout 3, which has enemies level scaled to the player's level. What this results in is enemies that should be hard and unkillable at levels 1 and 2, like a behemoth or a deathclaw, can be killed by a character with pitiful stats and equipment and get progressively easier to the extent that a level 30 character can kill an outcast soldier wearing nothing and just repeatedly punching them, all with a low unarmed skill. And if you don't believe me, please try it out. Go and unequip all of your apparel and all of your weapons and just attack a Brotherhood of Steel outcast soldier at level 30 and see what happens, again with a low unarmed skill. While in other 3 Fallouts I previously mentioned, the enemies have a fixed level, and this gives more of a challenge throughout the entirety of the game, creating a sense of verisimilitude and the world being its own separate entity, and doesn't give off the impression the world revolves around the inflated ego of the player, giving them every chance of victory to further boost their ego. This is a form of casualization, as Bethesda has essentially reduced the chances of failure and fundamentally the chance to actually learn about the game mechanics in favour of a vapid, all-conquering Rambo approach. To put this into context, T-45D power armour which the outcast soldiers wear, it's not the best power armour, but it's still technology that eventually replaced tanks in the Fallout universe, and a naked man can go and punch a power armour wearing individual to death, wearing nothing and having no weapons equipped, using only his bare fists. And again, this is with a low unarmed skill. This is just preposterous. Level scaling just mitigates all of the challenge in your game whenever the player gets to high level. In Fallout 1 and 2, you could obtain some powerful energy weapons and power armour and become a high level with some good special and skills, but you were always a critical hit away from dying, whether it be from an Enclave soldier in Fallout 2, a Brotherhood of Steel soldier in Fallout 1, or Deathclaws in either games, or super mutants depending on which ones you were fighting. You could die from a critical hit, and even some of just the random raiders or vipers or jackals in the games could provide, or the Yakuza could provide a strong critical hit that can kill you even if you're a moderately high level. And Fallout New Vegas got this right as well. You can become powerful and you can defeat most enemies quite easily at a higher level, but the high end enemies like super mutants, Deathclaws, again anyone wearing power armour with good energy weapons can kill you in Fallout New Vegas, or Cazadors as a lot of people complain about. That's before we even discussed the lore of super mutants and Deathclaws, which are effectively man-made weapons of war that can somehow be dispatched of by some 19-year-old vault dweller with nominal combat experience. Personally, this is a form of casualization that deeply annoys me, and I hope it doesn't make a return in future Fallout games. Point number 7. The value of items have been reduced. Nowhere is this point better illustrated than with power armour across the Fallout games. Not only is power armour far more abundant in Fallout 3 than it is in the first 2 Fallout games, it has a far lower monetary value, with inferior inferior stats to the extent Advanced Power Armor Mark II in Fallout 2 has 25 times the value of the rarest power armor in Fallout 3, which is the T-51B power armor. The Advanced Power Armor Mark II has far better stats, like having both damage resistance, which it has 10 more of than the T-51B, and damage threshold, which the T-51B has none of. As well as that, the Advanced Power Armor Mark II has a litany of damage resistances, like having 500 damage resistance to EMP and 90 to laser weapons. This isn't even factoring in T-45D, which is the most abundant and inferior power armor in Fallout 3. Another thing Bethesda did to make power armor more accessible is the ability to loot armor from dead bodies and having them in good condition, even though logically they should be heavily damaged, if not broken entirely, if the combatant wearing it has been killed. Again, this makes power armor, which is frighteningly abundant in Fallout 3, more accessible, though to be fair, power armor training was introduced to Fallout 3, but it did little to mitigate the ease of obtaining and wearing power armor in Fallout 3. This point can also be made using energy weapons as well, as they've become far more abundant and cheaper and less effective in Fallout 3, and just the general low prices of everything in Fallout 3. Though New Vegas did a good job of increasing the prices quite substantially, actually, quite often 5 to 10 times the price of items in Fallout 3. But having these items being far more abundant and having slashed monetary values just to cater to the casual gamer that wants to sell everything and to be easily rewarded for having items of colossal power is a form of casualization, and in my opinion not every item has to be sold, and items of value shouldn't be bought by just any old wastelander or merchant. And finally, to the conclusion, I understand the point that to get gaming as a medium widely accepted and respected, it needs to target a larger demographic. One of the main reasons film, TV, music and books are so widely accepted and respected is because so many people consume this form of entertainment. I just don't feel that borderline insulting the player's intelligence is the correct course of action. I still love the Fallout series and Fallout 3, but I feel it has been dumbed down in comparison to earlier titles, and I also think Fallout New Vegas shows that Fallout doesn't need to be dumbed down to such an extreme to be commercially successful and viable. I'm also not saying Fallout New Vegas was perfect, but I feel it was a worthy game and a step in the right direction while maintaining success. What it really comes down to is that I don't feel Fallout needs to lose its soul, and I don't want Fallout to lose its ethos in an attempt to target casual gamers, and as long as the developers aspire to have the same vision of Tim Kaine who created the series, I think we can all enjoy this series together, with fans both new and old enjoying Fallout together. I want to thank everyone that stayed and watched this video. It was quite lengthy and it took a lot of time to put together. So please, if you like this video, please give it a like, and if you want other Fallout content, please subscribe to this channel, and thanks for watching.